Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the sSEC Weekly Show. We are back in our Singular Live studios that was debuted during the College Basketball National Championship. This is a special edition of our sSEC Weekly Show, taking a look at post-Week 14 college football. We're going to take a look at the upcoming conference championships and the playoffs. We're going to get a few things out of the way first. First, we are not real college football. We do not cover that. We do not cover real SEC football. We are a simulated sports network. In fact, it is actually simulationsports.net. That is where we live. It is based on real teams, but all the players are generated. They are all not real. Come check us out. Hang out with us on Discord. See if you like it. You can take over a college football team, NFL, college basketball, NBA, and we did just add college hockey and NHL as well. It's a great time. Selfishly, we all seem to enjoy it. We make our podcast, we make our spreadsheets, do our rankings, all sorts of things, trying to provide that authentic experience for a platform that we all love. Again, this is the sSEC Weekly Show. We haven't been here in a while. I am your host, Ezeco. I coach University of Kentucky in both college football and basketball, and a couple other teams, as you can see down there on the bottom. We've not been here in a while. I've been busy, so I haven't really been able to dedicate as much to the sim as I'd like. But I thought that this would be a good week because we are post-Week 14. We finished the regular season, to take a look at what's happened recently and what's about to happen, so we can take a magnifying view to SEC in our simulated college football. We're going to take a look real quick. We haven't done this in a while. We haven't looked at anything in a while, but specifically I want to look at the recruiting rankings for the SEC. Just to get this out of the way real quick, very down at the bottom, you can see South Carolina, Texas, and Oklahoma have not recruited any players yet. It's been 14 weeks. They have not gathered anybody into their recruiting pool. I can't exactly explain why. I believe Texas has a coach. South Carolina and Oklahoma, the last I knew, were AI controlled. So I'm wondering if there's something a little strange with the settings there that maybe we need to have the admins look into. Texas was coached the last time I knew, but probably has been inactive for a while. So I don't know. That's something a little strange we're going to have to look into about what possibly going down in Austin and Norman and Columbia down there. But up at the top, we've got Tennessee with the number one recruiting class in the SEC. Now, these are my personal rankings. These are the SEC weekly rankings. Tennessee with the number one class in the SEC and the number one overall class. They only have 18 recruits, but they're capped off by actually an out-of-state recruit, a five-star cornerback in Michael Branch. So Tennessee has been bringing in a ton of 5 stars, 4 stars. They're really stacking those blue chips to continue to be the dominant force in SEC football. Brandon Savage is getting ready to graduate, so they're going to be looking for the next answer, and I think they've probably found it. If they don't have one sitting on their bench already, learning underneath him, then they've got one coming in. Tennessee is poised to continue to be dangerous, continue to be one of the top teams, and not just all of college football, but the top team in the SEC. And then there's a little bit of a surprise here with Vanderbilt stepping in right there at number 2. They've got an in-state recruit, a 5-star offensive tackle in Kwong Miata. That's going to be very crucial for them. They still have some answers to find. They've not been coached pretty much the entire time that I've been around here, and it's been about 3 or 4 years that I've been involved with simulation sports. So they still have a ton of questions to answer. But when somebody is willing to step in and take over Vanderbilt, they are going to have plenty of weapons to make a step into playing for contention, really. And that's what Vanderbilt needs to do. They need to get into a spot where they're contention. And we've seen that with the team that's actually right below them, with Georgia. Georgia started off the simulation with a very troubled roster. There was not a lot of talent there. And then Sarge stepped in, and he's been putting together tons of recruiting classes. And we've seen them slowly, and not even that really slowly even, it's been pretty rapid, Georgia's rise from one of the basement dwellers of the SEC in our simulation to now being a top 3 team in the entire conference. Now, Vanderbilt has 16 recruits, and there is a big gap. Vanderbilt may be second in the SEC, but overall, when we look at the overall rankings, and again, these are my rankings, it's a 12-step drop from Tennessee to Vanderbilt. So, yes, Vanderbilt is right there, Georgia's right there, and even Kentucky, which is my team, all 1, 2, 3, 4. But it is a huge drop-off from Tennessee to the rest of the teams, and that is a troubling sign for any team that is trying to move themselves into contention to fight against the juggernaut that has been Tennessee. Like I said, Georgia there sitting at number 3, 20 in the national rankings with 22 recruits, the most of anybody in the SEC by quite a bit there. Missouri also has over 20, but they're pretty far down there. Georgia has an in-state recruit, a 5-star wide receiver in Robert Arabo. That's going to be huge for them, especially as Sergeant Slaughter starts to really find his groove. And Georgia is going to be very dangerous over the next couple of years as long as he's still there. If he doesn't want to declare early, you're going to have to watch out for Vanderbilt. They are going to be the team, or not Vanderbilt, I'm sorry, Georgia. They are going to be the team that is going to be in the best position to challenge Tennessee in the next year or two. Kentucky sitting right there, my team at 4. Our top recruit is a 4-star cornerback, Charles Lafferty. That's an in-state recruit. Rest of the schools really have gone out of state to find their talent. Florida does have an in-state recruit in their 4-star cornerback, Douglas Yamamoto. Alabama has an in-state recruit, 4-star defensive tackle, Tu Nishimura. Texas A&M staying in-state, but their top recruit is only a 3-star. And they only have 10 recruits. So there's not been a concerted effort in College Station to really push that class forward. And they were a team that the last couple of years was a dangerous team, and they have fallen off because of the fact that they have not gotten on the recruiting trail. They've not pushed their team to continue to be prepared for the future. Auburn has a little bit of a dangerous sign there with their top recruit being a 3-star kicker out of Nebraska. It's a little bit of a question mark there. They have 14 recruits, so why is their top recruit a kicker? Now, we may see some 4 or 5 stars for them commit here shortly. There are still some weeks left in recruiting, but there's not a lot, and most of those blue chips are already gone. So Auburn has some troubling signs for a team that has not been very good lately. They've not been in contention. They've not been competitive. That's a troubling sign for things to come that they're probably not going to continue to be. Florida staying right in the middle of the conference, that's actually a good sign for them. Florida has had some similar troubles to Georgia where they were quite possibly one of the worst teams in the conference at the beginning of our simulation 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they have slowly built. Weeze over there has built up a program that is slowly becoming a contender, but they live in what's the old SEC East. Divisions are gone in the SEC now, so it's been difficult for them to break through the Tennessees, the Georgias, the Kentuckys. But if Weeze can continue what he's doing down there in Gainesville, I think we're going to see a guy like a 4-star cornerback, Yamamoto, really pay off for them in the next couple of years, and Florida will be challenging for that upper tier. That we should see Florida in the top half of the conference here within just the next couple of years. But that is a look at the recruiting rankings that we've had lately. Like I said, it's been a while, so we needed to cover that. But I do want to check in with our scoreboard. Now, it was just week 14. It's a huge week in college football, especially SEC, because it is rivalry week. Now, most teams were in action this week. There were a couple that were not. For example, I know off the top of my head that Texas and Texas A&M were not in action this week because they did play their game last week. So both were off this week. They've completed their seasons. Their rivalry game was last week. But we have Bama and Auburn in the Iron Bowl. Auburn taking that one away 27-14. South Carolina hosting Clemson, just not able to squeak out a win, falling 21-18. Florida hosting Florida State in one of the biggest rivalries in the country. They fall 52-21, which is unfortunate for them because while Florida State at the beginning of the sim was the top team in college football, they had a couple downswing years. Not bad, but they just swung down for a little bit, and they have stormed back and have been completely unstoppable this year. They finished their season 12-0 by defeating Florida in their rivalry game down in Gainesville, 52-21. Kentucky hosts Louisville, 38-22 victory for Kentucky. This was the only game I managed to catch because selfishly, again, I coach Kentucky. I'm going to tell you that score doesn't even show how close it was. Louisville has been a decent team this year, and in fact, if I remember correctly, they are in the ACC playoff. We're going to get to that stuff in a minute. But they completely dominated Louisville. Kentucky scored on their first 3 drives. Louisville had a turnover and 2 3-and-outs on their first 3 drives, so just had no answers for Kentucky at all. So that's a huge win for Kentucky for what they're trying to do in the postseason. Mississippi State hosting Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl. Mississippi State takes that one 37-10. Georgia hosting Georgia Tech Georgia Tech hosting Georgia in Atlanta to take that rivalry, another SEC-ACC rivalry. Georgia taking that one 35-7 in a very important game for them, and that really came to pay off later. Again, we'll get to that in a second. The final rivalry of this would be Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and Tennessee just absolutely slaughtering Vanderbilt. And again, Vanderbilt is not very good. They have been one of the teams that has reflected their real-life counterparts. They've got some flashes, but they have consistently been at the bottom of the SEC, and Tennessee took advantage of that, shutting them out, 49-0 victory. 2 other teams in action, Missouri taking on Illinois. Illinois taking that one 29-21, and then Southern Miss taking on Oklahoma. Oklahoma takes that one 24-7. That's a good cap off for the Oklahoma Sooners to finish off their season. So that is your Week 14. That's the final week of the regular season for the SEC. Now, you've heard me say some things that we're going to cover later. There is a very important thing that's going to happen this season, and that is that any conference that has 12 teams or more, we have now created a college football conference playoff. So the top 4 teams of every conference that has 12 or more teams will go into a 4-team playoff. They will be home site games for the first round, and then the championship game will fall back to whatever it has been. So, for example, the SEC plays their conference championship in Atlanta. So that will continue to happen. But before that, there will be a Week 15 game of basically a semifinal. So Georgia's win this week was very important to keep them in the top part of the conference. Tennessee obviously had already wrapped that up. They're 12-0. It wasn't really an issue for them. Of course, you always want to beat your rivals, so that was an important game for them. And in fact, speaking of that game, that does take us to our Player of the Week, which is going to be, unfortunately, and I say this as a Kentucky guy, unfortunately, it's going to be Tennessee's Brandon Savage, who just, like we just talked about, absolutely annihilated Vanderbilt. Brandon Savage went 23 for 35, passed for 410 yards, put 4 of those passes into the end zone. He did throw 1 interception, which I know he's kicking himself, and T. Sweeze probably had a big conversation with him about not throwing an interception to a team like Vanderbilt. And then he had to have gotten onto his offensive line, allowing 2 sacks. It's potential that those happen late in the game when you're throwing in a couple guys there at the end just to get them some reps. Put in those backups, get them the reps up against a team like Vanderbilt, and get them ready for the college football playoff, which Tennessee is destined for at 12-0. But 410 pass yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He did even run the ball 7 times for 28 yards. Not great, but Brandon Savage isn't going to beat you with his legs. He's going to pound you with his arm, and he's going to destroy you through the air with all the weapons that he's got. He's going to hand the ball off to his running backs. He's going to target all of his receivers. He's going to spread the ball around, and he's going to absolutely annihilate. That's what Tennessee does. He also he didn't have any rushing touchdowns, but he didn't have any fumbles either. So very protective of the ball, besides that one mistake with the interception. Again, not a huge deal, but that is what Tennessee is. That is what Brandon Savage does. So that's our player of the week, Tennessee's Brandon Savage. So let's take a look real quick about these next couple games coming up. Because like I said, there will be a semifinal. So for the SEC, there was a little bit of a tiebreaker situation with Kentucky, Arkansas, and Missouri all finishing with the same record at 10-2. However, Arkansas wins that tiebreaker because of their strength of schedule. The teams that they played were better than the teams that Kentucky and Missouri played. In fact, in Missouri's case, they were markedly better. Missouri had a very weak schedule, so that almost immediately took them out of contention. Kentucky, as we did the math even in the week before this, right after week 13, we had counted them out, but they were still close, but their schedule just was not strong enough. So that is going to put Arkansas in as the 4 seed, which is going to have them taking on Tennessee in the first semifinal game. Arkansas, number one seed Tennessee, who's also, I believe, number 2 in the country when we look at the rankings, and we're going to take a look at those here in a second. He's going to take on the number 4 seed Arkansas. Tennessee at 12-0, taking Arkansas at 10-2, and there is a lot of yellow on that right side. On paper, this is not going to be a contest, and I don't even think when we see it play out, it's going to be. I don't want to say that good of a game because, of course, this is SEC football. It's always going to be a good game. But I do think that Tennessee is going to come out and dominate this. In fact, these two teams have already played. In Week 11, Tennessee did take on Arkansas and beat them 38-17. That's not that long ago. Tennessee is scoring 50.17 points per game. Arkansas is only managing 32. Tennessee is only allowing 16.5 points per game, while Arkansas is allowing 20.75. So, and these aren't even the best numbers in the conference. Like, I think Tennessee, I know that Tennessee's defense, their point against, is the second best in the conference. I believe LSU is number 1. We're going to check out that here in a second. But the yardage here as well, 658 yards per game for Tennessee's offense. And they do that fairly spread out. They're getting 499 yards in the air per game. We just saw that with Brandon Savage throwing for almost that average just against Vanderbilt. And they are rushing for 159 yards per game. That's fairly balanced, but we know who Tennessee is. They are going to beat you through the air with that arm of Brandon Savage. On the flip side, Arkansas has a very balanced attack. They have 467 yards per game. That's not quite close to Tennessee, as we've seen, but most teams aren't. But it's still a great yardage per game for Arkansas, who's a very good team. They are only allowing 346.5 yards per game. Now, when we look at their offense, they are passing for 123 yards per game. They're rushing for 343. So they're almost tripling their rush yards to their pass yards, which is a flip of what Tennessee is. So we're going to see a very different game between these two. One is going to try and pound the ball, and the other one's just going to throw it up there. My money is still on Tennessee and Brandon Savage, though, that they just have not proved to be stoppable at all. And until somebody can stop them, I'm going to continue to bet on them. And yes, that hurts me. Tennessee's defense is also, pretty good, as we could say. They're only allowing 121 yards on the ground per game. They are only allowing 220 through the air. So Arkansas is not going to be able to get this ball up in the air, and they're going to have a very difficult time even rushing it. That's one of the best rushing yards against, not just in the conference, probably one of the best in the country. So Arkansas is going to have a challenge here. It's going to be a huge challenge, one that they weren't able to mount last time. But let's see if Wheeler has some tricks up his sleeve to maybe at least make this game closer. If they can get it close, if they can threaten, maybe Tennessee can make some mistakes like they did against Vanderbilt, which didn't end up mattering, but in a close game very well could. Tennessee's defense, it's getting 3 sacks per game, so Arkansas is going to have a very tight offensive line. But on the other side, Arkansas is very good at taking the ball away. They're averaging over 1.5 turnovers per game, or takeaways per game, however you want to read that. Tennessee's very good at that too. They're averaging over 1 per game. So we are going to see turnovers in this game, and it's going to come down to which one of these teams can capitalize on it. Checking out our other game. So that's the 1 for 4. This is our other game, which is going to be the 2 versus 3. LSU, the other best team in the conference, and honestly, maybe could be even better than Tennessee if you look at things a certain way. They are also 12-0. Georgia is going to be your 3 seed at 9-3. LSU averaging 48 points per game. Georgia only averaging 29. But the defense for both of these teams is amazing. LSU is only allowing 11 points per game, and Georgia is only allowing 16. So both of these teams, while slightly less than the matchup we just saw on the offensive side of the ball, with yardage and points, the defenses in this game are going to be extremely key. LSU passes the ball for 594 yards per game. They rush the ball for 557. They are. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They only pass the ball for 37. Their yards per game are 594. They only pass the ball for 37 yards per game. 37 yards per game. The other side of that is the rushing yards, which is 557. So you are not going to see LSU pass the ball. If they are passing the ball, it is probably a desperate situation, or it's a 1-yard dip straight into the end zone that's wide open. Georgia throws the ball for 193 yards per game. They rush it for 254. So this is a very balanced attack for them. They have ways to do it either through the air or through the ground. LSU kind of one-dimensional in that respect, but that one dimension is one of the best in all of college football. So Georgia has a huge challenge in trying to contain this LSU rushing attack. Now, they've been pretty good at that so far this year. They are only allowing 148.5 yards per game on the ground. So you're going to see a very, very rush-focused offense coming up against a very rush-focused defense. This is going to be a good game. As I talked about before, Georgia has had a long climb from the bottom to right here at the top. They're not quite there yet. They've got another year or two to go, but this is an excellent game for them to kind of see where they're at. And these two teams have not faced off against each other this year, so they don't know what they're going to get, but the numbers already tell you exactly what this game is going to be. LSU is going to pound it. Georgia's going to come out and use every single weapon at their disposal that they possibly can, and this is going to be a very good game. This is going to be my game to watch in all of college football, mostly because, of course, I care about the SEC, but because these two teams are so diametrically opposed. So, if I had to make predictions, of course, it's going to be, I think, Tennessee taking the game against Arkansas. If we want to call it close, I think Tennessee is going to win this one 42 to 33. I don't think that Arkansas is going to be able to stop Brandon Savage, and they've got plenty of talent down there. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that it is enough to stop Tennessee and what they've been doing. On the other side, with the LSU Georgia game, I do think that LSU is going to take this one, and I think it's going to be, I don't want to say bad, but I do think it's going to be a very convincing win. I think LSU is going to take that one 35-17. Both of those are multiple score games, of course, but this is just the first round of the SEC. Now, when we get to the LSU-Tennessee matchup that I believe will inevitably happen in the SEC championship game in Atlanta, who's going to win that one? You could flip a coin. It'll land heads 5 times. It'll land tails 5 times. That's still not going to help you at all because that is going to be such a 50-50 game. But one that I think will be one of the most exciting to watch in college football. Yeah, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but I am excited to see the potential matchup of a 500-yard passing offense in Brandon Savage and Tennessee against a over 500-yard rushing attack in LSU. That is going to be extremely exciting to watch. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be fireworks. So no disrespect to Arkansas and Georgia at all. I love you both. I'm really excited for that matchup to happen. That's what I think is going to be happening. But that is just the first step in what we're looking at. College football has, of course, moved to a playoff. Not to say anything, but we did adopt that format here at simulationsports.net before the real world college football even decided to do it. So we're a little bit at the forefront there. But there are some challenges. We do have a college football top 25 post week 13, so this is a little bit outdated at this point. But we see Florida State there at number 1, Tennessee at number 2, and LSU at number 3. By far, these have been the 3 best teams in college football. We just discussed that and everything we've talked about already. We can already lock those 3 into the college football playoff, which is a 12-team playoff with top 4 teams getting byes. But there are no automatic seeds. Very important. So, yes, the winner of the SEC is going to be in the college football playoff. They are going to be a top 4 seed, whether it's number 1 or number 2, doesn't really matter. They're not locked into that, but that is what's going to happen. If we see Tennessee, LSU in that conference championship game, as I predict, both of those teams are going to make it easily. I do think whoever is the loser of that championship game, if it is those 2 teams, is still going to make it into the college football playoff with no problem with an at-large bid. So Tennessee, LSU, go ahead. Let's just lock them into the college football playoff. Now, the top 12 teams of this ranking make it in. We can pretty much guess that Baylor and West Virginia are going to get in regardless, just because of where they sit right now. Again, we have not seen where they've fallen post week 14, if they've fallen at all. But I think it's pretty safe to say it would be very surprising if the 2 of those teams were to fall out of the top 12. But if we do look down here, we see 3 more SEC teams. We've talked about 2 of them at length and another one a little bit just because it's me. So we've got 5 SEC teams in the top 25, which is very important for us as a conference. There's not, as I'm looking through, really any other teams. I mean, the MAC has quite a few teams, and that's going to surprise some people who may be unfamiliar with our simulation. I don't know what's happened. There are extremely good coaches in the MAC, especially up at Western Michigan. Ball State has really come up in the last few years. Bowling Green has always been threatening the entire time that they've been around. So some of you who are not familiar with our simulation may see the MAC like, why do they have so many? The MAC has been one of the best football conferences in our simulation since the beginning. That is not a surprise. What is great to look at this is that as I keep looking down and double checking my math here, the SEC has the most teams in the top 25. It may be tied with another one where I'm bleeding together some letters here, but I'm seeing that finally we've as a conference, we've strove for it, we've pounded on it, we've really focused our efforts, has surfaced as, again, one of the top conferences in all of college football with 5 teams in the top 25. That is huge for us. But as we digressed on that a little bit, Georgia, Arkansas, Kentucky, 15, 16, 17. All the ducks in a row right there. Now, should Georgia and Arkansas, one of them or both of them, pull the upset and defeat LSU or Tennessee in their respective games and move into the conference championship game, I believe that would propel at least one of them into the college football playoff. The winner if the winner happens to be Georgia or Arkansas of the SEC championship game, then they are a lock for the playoff. Like that would absolutely, just especially from where they're sitting, that would lock them into the conference, the college football playoff. Um, so they have a very good path. They have potential to get in there. Should they lose those games, I don't think that would damage them in the eyes of the committee in any way. You may see them drop a spot or two just for posterity's sake, but I don't really see that happening, especially if everything runs chalk. Um, so their path to get into the football playoff is to win at least one game. Then you can see it happen, especially against Tennessee and LSU. That would be huge for their resume, and I think that would propel one of them into the playoff. Maybe some other things would have to happen. Kentucky's sitting there. I don't know that there is a path for us to get into the playoff. There are a lot of teams ahead, a lot of very good teams ahead. You see the records, 11-1. There's only one 10-2 team ahead of us. Well, two 10-2 teams ahead of us. One of them being Arkansas, the other one being Syracuse, who we've already beat. But the committee has valued their record above Kentucky's because of who they've played. They play in the ACC, which is a little bit of a tougher conference, and maybe pretty much on the level of the SEC. But the draw that Syracuse has had this season, they've had to play Miami, who they just beat, who's ranked number 7 in the college football playoff. So their resume is a little bit better despite Kentucky having beaten them. That's why we see a difference in their ranking. Personally, and I've talked to some other people, that's a little bit maybe of a surprise of how much higher they're ranked. But Kentucky still maybe has a path. If there are some huge upsets, if there's some teams that just completely drop the ball, maybe there is a way for Kentucky to get in, but I really don't see it happening. I think it's another wasted year of Michael Oliveros' talent, and I think that Kentucky, despite having their best regular season since they went to the college football playoff in the very first year and made it to the semifinals and fell to Florida State, as a matter of fact, I think they missed the college football playoff. Get one of the better bowl games, probably a New Year's Six bowl. But I don't see them getting into the playoff. I think that's going to end their season. But it was a good one. 10-2, best regular season they've had since they made it to the playoff when they went 12-0 or 15-0 before they fell to Florida State because they won the SEC that year as well. But Georgia and Arkansas still have a chance. So there is a potential for the SEC to get 3 teams into the college football playoff, which is the next step for the conference to take. After getting teams to be competitive, which they are, you don't at this point want to see some of these SEC teams on your schedule. The next step is to start dominating the playoff, and as a conference, we are getting right there. So that is going to do it for us here at SEC Weekly. Like I said, this has been a special show as we check out the conference championships and we move into the new playoff format, which I'm really excited for. I know tons of other people are. Again, if you stuck it out with this video for this long, I appreciate you. I'm not very good at this. I don't do this often, especially since I haven't done this in a very long time. If you are not part of our website, simulationsports.net, come check us out. Again, college football, NFL, college basketball, NBA, college hockey, NHL. All of these are in full swing right now. Hockey is just getting off the ground. Preseason is happening as we speak. In fact, there are games running as I record this, working out a few kinks in order for us to get the season started very soon as football winds down. So that's going to be an exciting time for hockey. Basketball is going to be ramping up again here soon. And again, baseball is still in development for you baseball people out there. It is still being developed. It will be coming. It is happening. So please stay tuned for that. Again, if you have stuck it out through this video, I appreciate you. If you have been just curious, come check us out. Join us on Discord. Talk to us. Ask some questions. We're really excited to have more people. Everybody is extremely friendly, extremely welcoming, and we'll answer any questions that you could possibly have. Even though those of you who are watching and are involved in the sim, you have questions, just ask, man. I mean, these people are some of the best people I've ever met, and they are more than willing to help anybody at all. So come check us out, hang out with us. I've been Ezekiel with the sSEC Weekly Show. Appreciate you hanging with us, and we'll see you in the sim.